Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a first-person view of the TrainerRoad workout Tumbe, T-U-M-B-E. At its core, this is a 3 times 5 by 30 or 45 second VO2 max workout, something like that. So coming from the tri world, this is something I used to absolutely hate, and now kind of figuring out the cycling world, I actually quite enjoy this one. This has become sort of a staple of like pre-race workouts. This will be my last one before I go and race on a weekend. So I find that the sort of duration and the workload is such that it kind of just reminds my legs of what they're going to do in a crit without putting a whole lot of stress and strain and really taxing the top end system, if you will, quote unquote top end, for me top end. So obviously it's 3 sets, and I kind of break them out into 3 different ways of doing the intervals. So the first set of 5 intervals, I'll typically try and abbreviate the rest period. TrainerRoad's lap function is great, where you can kind of just, as you hit the lap button, you'll skip forward to the next prescribed interval, so you can shorten or elongate those rest intervals as needed. So in the first round, I will typically try and abbreviate those rest intervals. So I believe that this one calls for, I think it's 2 minutes in between each 30 or 45 second interval, and in the first set I will basically hit the lap button. I'll treat it basically as 30-30s, so 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, times 5. So nothing terribly stressful, but kind of just accelerates sort of the rise in heart rate to mimic a little bit what I at least personally experience in a crit. Sort of that first 2 or 3 laps where your heart's pounding and you've got some adrenaline going. You haven't quite settled into sort of a rhythm yet. So I'm trying to mimic that a little bit. In the second set, I will start each 30 second or each VO2 interval. Again, not sure on times, it's 30 or 45 seconds. I'll start each interval with a little acceleration, not quite a full-blown sprint, but just sort of stand up in the drops, try and put down some power and mimic an acceleration. That is sort of mimicking what, again, this is probably somewhat personal to myself, being a Cat 5, but you run into a lot of these situations where people are trying to take turns 3 or 4 people wide, where it would be far faster and far more efficient just going one single file through there. Obviously, coming out of those turns, you wind up having to do 800, 1,000 watts just to kind of get back up to pace. So that's what I'm mimicking with that second set, is that sort of get out of the saddle, get on the power, and then settle into a VO2 effort for the remainder of that interval. And then the third set, I just kind of try and go steady. I focus on trying to, this is one thing that sort of tri and dedicated cycling folks seem to agree on, is really focusing on trying to pull power from sort of all the way around the circle, if you will. So at the bottom of the pedal stroke, kind of sliding your feet back towards the rear of the bike. At the top, kind of kicking forward. At the front, pushing down, obviously, and at the rear, pulling up. So I'm just trying to be kind of smooth on that. The actual power profile doesn't always wind up looking terribly smooth there, as you'll probably see it. My power meter kind of gives me a little bit of a cyclical sort of sine wave look on the power distribution through those intervals, which I'm sure is probably more so a factor of myself needing to get better at that. But at least while I'm riding, it feels like a nice, smooth, steady effort. There's no real sort of like rest period during the pedal stroke, and there's no real sort of heavy loading sort of space in that pedal stroke. So I typically find myself focusing pretty heavily on sort of pushing real hard, sort of at that front end of the pedal stroke, and then pulling real hard at the rear end of the pedal stroke. And I kind of forget about the top and bottom. So just working on that, trying to keep things smooth. Again, that whole sort of system just is kind of a tune-up, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if that means I need to retest, which I will on this coming Wednesday after the Longmont crit. I'm not sure if it means I need to retest, if this feels very comfortable to me, or if that's sort of what it's designed to feel like. At least at this point, I like the sort of the training impulse that it gives me. I like how my system recovers from it. And I do this workout 2 days before the race. So obviously my race is on Sunday, very, very early Sunday morning. I did this workout on Thursday, so it gives me Friday and Saturday to just rest, recover, absorb the work that we've done. And yeah, so again, that's probably mostly a personal experience type of thing. That's probably somewhat anecdotal, but it works great for me. Also, this loop is wonderful. This is just south of Fort Collins. This is straight down LeMay, and you just kind of run into it. Obviously, you'll see in the top left corner, you'll see the profile of my ride, and that is sort of cardinal direction accurate, so up is north. If you come south down LeMay, you just run into this little loop, and I like it a lot. There's obviously a couple turns here, which can be helpful if you can verify that there's no traffic, hitting some turns at speed. Also, it allows you to sort of time your rest, not necessarily as sort of normally distributed as you would have it in a workout. So you can kind of shorten your rest periods if you see that you're coming up to the next stretch. If you come around a turn and you have maybe 30 seconds left in your rest period, you can get back on an interval a little bit early. This is great for sort of 1 minute intervals. If you treat it sort of like a square, if you can kind of imagine that, just corner to corner, sort of 45-second or 1 minute intervals are well suited to this little loop. But yeah, that's really all I have for today. Here next week, I'd like to try and look at my heart rate data and sort of look at that relative to the start of the season and kind of see how my fitness is progressing in that respect. I've been trying out a Whoop band for about a month and a half now. That's not enough data to go off of, but I've always worn a heart rate monitor. So we'll go and look back at that at the start of the season versus where we are now. Obviously, start of the season, I was very much out of shape. I took the winter pretty seriously. There was a lot of bourbon and cornbread, so that'll be cool to see where we've gotten to this point. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. quick note here, now that it's too late to do anything about it. It looks like my GoPro cut off the third of the 3 sets of 5 intervals. So I'm going to just go ahead and let the first 2 sets run. I think I've got 3 intervals from the first set, and then the full set of sprint / acceleration intervals. So that's fine. Steady power is not a whole lot of fun to watch anyway, so I'll go ahead and leave it at that. Thanks, guys.